you're dealing in a man who deals with cliches. Anyway, cliches are my game, really. And because I think there's a great deal of truth in cliches. And I think the characters in this film quite probably do exist within prisons.
What do you mean that there's a lot of truth in cliche?
Pardon? What do I mean about?
No, I mean,
I think no. I think what I tend to enjoy doing is taking something that has that is restricted by its very nature, or something that, whether it be because it's been done to death, or and working within these restrictions and creating something original and vital out of that restricted area, whether it be rock and roll music or film or whatever.
So
I tend to enjoy using. I tend to enjoy employing cliches and trying to make them give them new life.
So what was the thrust of your initial interest back then when we first talked in London in 1984?
Pardon? What was the thrust of it?
Yeah, well, no, well, what was your particular interest, I guess, because you had to devote a certain amount of your time to...
The money was basically...
Was it? But there was, how much money was there? I can't really remember. Was it significant? Or
what it was at the time, yes.
Was it?
Yeah. and then I found myself basically entrapped in this whole thing and unable to kind of get out of it in any way. So I've basically spent the last 3 years of my life, a kind of virtual artistic prisoner, having to carry the kind of the carry this film basically, because of my name and the fact that I'm pretty famous.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the fact that you guys have used me. Used that fact and exploited that to its absolute limit has meant that I've been unavoidably involved in the film.
To your dissatisfaction?
Yes, basically, yes.
So, is this some form of public disclaimer, what we have here? No, it's not. No, I'm enjoying. No, really, no. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the money. Pardon? So from the initial drafts that you were involved with, have you been pleased with the bent that the film took?
Yeah, I have been in that it's not something that I would have. Well, it's quite different than the way it was originally conceived, and it has far more of a political thrust, and so therefore I find myself a little bit removed from it, and in that respect, I find myself almost being commissioned to work on a film that isn't on something that isn't. Hasn't directly come from my own sort of source or my own source of inspiration, and I find that quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
That I'm actually working to please someone else rather than myself.
Is that essentially the way you see it, or do you see it as sort of like a pooling that may not necessarily reflect any anybody's singular pursuit? I mean, it must be
Well, I
different
think
for you
that's-
in a sense where you're the auteur of your, work, so to speak. Sorry, author?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it
Sorry.
is very, very different working in the field of film. I'm very surprised by it, and have learnt a lot about film by just the short time I've worked in this, and it is something that's it is very different. I mean, there's so many areas that I mean, it must be very frustrating to be a director of a film, I think, and having to have all these different people employed to work in different areas, and everybody feeling very kind of possessive about the particular area that they work in, and having to trust all these different people and so forth.
Very true.
I find that would be extremely frustrating.
Mhm.
And I mean, as a musician or as a writer or whatever, I find that I'm basically my own boss, and I don't see these problems. I've never had to be confronted by these problems. But I mean, it's certainly opened my eyes up to how a film is made.
Well, I remember you telling me with some passion about film a couple of years ago, having been floated through that experience. Does the passion still remain for film?
Well, I think, I mean, for me, it's for me. I didn't make that. He didn't make it. For me, I still consider film to be basically my favourite medium. I mean, I enjoy films more than any other medium. I enjoy seeing films more than looking at a painting or listening to a record or whatever. I find them have a more lasting effect on me in general. But I don't know if I would be able to. I don't think I have the capacity to be able to direct a film as such, and the patience to have the longevity of vision or whatever that you need to have. You know, to be involved with something for 5 years, one idea or whatever, and to hold on to that idea and carry it through, and try and kind of keep your original vision intact,
But
while it's
what
being
about-
kind of ripped apart by all these people you've employed and so on. I'm not sure if I could kind of have the artistic constitution to cope with that.
What, the fact that you have people who've got to contribute one way or the other? But I mean, when you talk about something like your book, which you started back in 1984, you've been working on, well, pretty solidly till now.
But it's never left my it's never been out of my own sphere of control. I mean, I've never had to see it kind of. I haven't had like 20 different publishers or whatever, kind of ripping it to bits and putting it back, this way and that way, and changing the story around. And I've always been master of it from beginning to end. And I don't think that's the case with film. I think you have to make so many compromises, particularly in coitive stages. Or if it's your first film or whatever, you have to make so many compromises that I find that would find that difficult to be able to cope with.